In the summer of 1980, an American student vanished without a trace. There were no signs of a struggle or disturbance, and not one single clue to indicate what had happened to her. Over 40 years later, her loved ones continue to search for answers to her mysterious disappearance. Anne Denise Victoria Manchester was born on the 10th of June 1954 in Delaware to Andrew and Joyce Manchester. In her early years, between 1961 and 1966, Anne lived with her parents in Walnut Creek, located within the San Francisco Bay Area of California, having also spent some of her childhood in Wilmington, Delaware. After living in California, the family then relocated and returned to their home state of Delaware, settling at number 18 Harlech Drive in Anglesey, which sat close to the now former Hercules Country Club by Lancaster Pike in Newcastle County. By late June of 1980, 26-year-old Anne, a graduate of Alexis I. DuPont High School, had moved out of the family home and lived in a third-floor apartment at the Villa Belmont apartment complex on Welsh Tract Road in Newark. She was a student at the University of Delaware and was in the final week of her studies, where she was set to graduate with a master's degree in business administration following a final exam on the 30th of June. Before she finalised her decision to pursue full-time education, Anne had served as a secretary at Claymont Steel Firm, but had resigned from her position several months prior. Anne's loved ones described her as a precise and orderly individual, leading a well-organised life. Her apartment was consistently immaculate, and she diligently recorded her appointments on a calendar. On the 9th of July, Anne's parents, Andrew and Joyce, returned home after a short holiday and planned to visit their daughter. The next day, they went to Villa Belmont and noticed that Anne's car, a light blue Honda, was still in the car park. Upon entering the apartment complex, they discovered that the front door to Anne's apartment was unlocked. The apartment was clean and undisturbed, however, it lay unsettlingly silent. Some of Anne's possessions were found, including her keys, purse, cigarettes and lighter, as well as her checkbook. In the kitchen, a pair of flip-flop sandals belonging to Anne had been placed beneath the dining table, with a stack of textbooks and a half-full glass of diet soda laying on the table. Upon closer inspection, a thin layer had formed over the liquid in the glass, suggesting it had sat untouched for quite some time. Andrew and Joyce were concerned that there was no sign of their daughter, and subsequently contacted police to report her as a missing person. Initial investigation revealed that Anne's last known movements were on Sunday, the 29th of June, 10 days before her parents returned from their vacation. Her vanishing rang alarm bells for many because she was due to set her final exam the following day, however, she did not turn up. On the 29th of June, Anne was visited by an unnamed male friend who departed from the Villa Belmont complex at approximately 12:30 p.m. At 2 p.m, Anne called a female friend, and this was the last contact Anne engaged in before vanishing. Police interviewed these two individuals, with the male friend, who according to reports was not a student, recalling what Anne was wearing, specifically a t-shirt and cut-off blue jeans. Police stated he was very cooperative in their investigation. The female friend stated that she and Anne had talked about school during the phone call, and nothing seemed awry or out of the ordinary. 2 weeks later, her parents offered a $1,000 reward for any information regarding Anne's out-of-character disappearance. Andrew Manchester, who was employed as an engineer at Hercules Inc., told the media that he believed his daughter had been kidnapped and she may have come to harm. Sergeant Alex von Koch, who was investigating this case, stated to the press, "We've spoken to her friends, acquaintances, classmates. There's no indication of instability. On the contrary." Continuing, Van Koch further elaborated on Anne's relationships, saying that she had the usual boyfriends college girls have. However, there were no indications that Anne was in a serious relationship with anyone at the time of her disappearance. According to her family, she went on a couple of dates, however, none had evolved into a serious relationship, at least to her family's knowledge. Anne's friends said that she would travel everywhere by car and never went for a jog or cycled recreationally, and Anne's neighbours reported that nothing unusual had occurred in the apartment complex at the time Anne went missing. The sandals beneath the kitchen table led detectives to suspect that she left the apartment barefoot. However, it is not a certainty. Despite extensive searches conducted by friends, family, and law enforcement in the fields and residential areas surrounding Anne's apartment building, no clues were discovered. There seemed to be no signs of a struggle, and with the door being unlocked, it was thought that Anne had perhaps left her apartment momentarily, fully intending to return. Police distributed flyers around Delaware and the surrounding states, anticipating tips from the public regarding the case. However, their hopes dwindled as time went on. There were many theories put forward in regards to Anne's fate. Approximately 1 year after Anne's disappearance, a local newspaper circulated a rumour suggesting that she had been murdered, placed in a suitcase, and then discarded at the Claymont steel firm where she was formerly employed. However, law enforcement later clarified that there was no evidence to substantiate this rumour. Some thought that Anne had taken her own life. However, her body was never found to ever confirm this theory. Anne's familial DNA was compared to 3 Jane Does. The first was the 1981 Hanover County Jane Doe, who had been in a serious car crash in Doswell, Virginia. Unfortunately, her head could not be retrieved among the remains, and additionally, no clothing was found, as it had been consumed by the fire that ensued from the accident. The second unidentified woman the DNA was compared to was the cheerleader in the trunk, a young woman who was found deceased in a footlocker in Frederick County, Maryland in 1982. The third Jane Doe was Eklutna Annie, a young woman whose skeletal remains were found along a power line beside another deceased person in Eklutna, Alaska in 1980. Anne Manchester was subsequently ruled out as being one of these Jane Does. However, as of 2024, these 3 women remain unidentified. At the time of her disappearance in the summer of 1980, Anne Manchester was 26 years old and Caucasian with a medium complexion, standing at 5'2" or 5'3" inches tall, with brown hair and brown eyes. She weighed approximately 110 to 115 pounds, was a smoker, and a police report indicated an ident mark or tattoo on left eyelid, which has also been described as a growth on her left eyelid. Despite it being believed she wasn't in any sort of relationship, she was last known to have been wearing a silver wedding ring, a gold Timex watch, a t-shirt, and cut-off blue jeans with a heart on the back. According to current police and media accounts, there is a growing belief that Anne's disappearance involves foul play, and investigators suspect she may have been either abducted or lured into a vehicle shortly after leaving her apartment for potentially a moment to do a task such as collecting her mail. If alive today, Anne would be 69 years old. If you have any information regarding the vanishing of Anne Manchester, you can contact the Newark Police Department at 302 366 7111.